then I'll start. Welcome, everybody. And today I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start with talking about the aspects for November. So, because it's almost November, I think it's tomorrow. And so we're going to go into like a little bit of an astrological overview of that, just so you can see how things are sorted out. And then I have a couple other things to talk about after that. I'm going to share my screen. Share, 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 and share. Okay. So this is nice and big so that we can all see what we're doing here in November. As I said, like in the note that I sent out, November has a lot going on, and it's just helpful to be aware of the different things that are happening. I mean, we're just in a few days, we're going to have the full moon that's coming up it's going to be on the 5th, it's going to be 13 degrees Taurus. So basically, like I always say, just look at your own chart, see where that falls. I don't think it's hitting anything in particular, like anything extraordinary. I could be wrong because I haven't really, I'm going to look at it soon because I'm going to write my article about it. But just so that you know that there is a full moon in Taurus, and when there's a full moon, it means the sun's in Scorpio. So you've got a Scorpio Taurus opposition that you can just put into your chart and see what houses that's in and where it falls, and just anything that can be helpful to you about those degrees in Taurus and opposing in Scorpio, and see what's up with that. So that's just the norm. That's a normal thing. And then but the things that I really wanted to point out was between the 9th and the 11th, which means a few days on either side of that period of time. First, we have Mercury going retrograde at 6 Sag. So just the general things about Mercury retrograde, which is just be careful of what you say and how you say it. Watch the fine print on everything. Write down everything because it'd be easy to miss something. And just the whole pattern of having, which is what I do on a regular basis, go out to my car because I'm going out, remember something that I forgot, go back in the house, get that, go back out to the car, then remember something else that I forgot, and then go back and, oh, my sunglasses, go back into the house, come back into the car. I mean, not a bad or terrible thing. It's just you've got to have a sense of humor about it and just go like, oh, I've got just a few more steps in my day, doing this. Whatever you have to think to make it so that you're not swearing internally and having a more positive outlook about it. So that's the Mercury retrograde. That's not really Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year. It's very normal patterning. And Mercury, just so you know, it goes direct after about 3 weeks, and it'll go direct on the 29th, which I'll talk about in a minute too. But then you have the Mercury stationary point. So that's an intense Mercury force happening. And at the same time, you have the Jupiter going retrograde. So you have an intense Jupiter force. And that's not necessarily bad. But it will make people more voluble. In other words, people will be more talkative. There'll be a lot more words coming at you that you may have to parse. You may have to listen more closely to understand. Because it's a retrograde, you want to think about things, if we're just talking about ourselves, we want to think about things like um, being careful about what you say before you say it. It'll be just, especially with Mercury and Sagittarius, that's so much about saying things off the top of your head that get you into trouble. And if, even when you're being like really upbeat and positive, because Mercury Jupiter is very upbeat, it's very positive, it's very optimistic, but but I suggest that you think about your audience, I guess. think about who you're talking to. So you may want to talk about a topic that you feel strongly about, but your audience may not be receptive to that topic, or they may just not understand the language that you're speaking. You know how we are in Kriya Yoga, we talk a lot. We talk a lot of astrology language, but I think some people just just out of the blue will say, oh, it's Mercury retrograde and therefore this and this and this and this, and the other person's not interested in astrology or they don't value that, and then you've already got some sort of tension in the conversation. It doesn't have to be bad or terrible thing. It's just more like, think about it. It can be really good, Mercury, Jupiter, for making first drafts of things. So if you want to write something, if you have if you have poetry in your soul, whatever it is, if you go ahead and just let it flow, let it come out. I just reading an article about writing where the person said, I've given up pushing writing. Now but she was a metaphysical person. So she said, I've given up pushing writing. I just try to let it flow or just channel it. So if you like to do that sort of thing, it's a very good time for that. It's just not a good time for final drafts because um, things with Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde like that need to be edited at some point in time in the future. So let it sit for a couple of weeks or even until Mercury is direct, and then do your final edits, but allow things to flow. And so it's sort of a good symbol if you want to think about that for Mercury retrograde. So some people might say that it's not such a good symbol. Remember, Jupiter conjunct Mercury with both stationary points can have a person driving too fast because Mercury has to do with short distance journeys as well. So not so much with cars themselves, but with the whole idea of you singing a song and not paying attention to the signs and all these different things. So there's a lot of need to focus attention at this time because it can be, if you're actually driving, it could be sort of dangerous. So if you know there's things that distract you while you're driving, just don't do them. Like you don't have to answer the phone when you're in your car and that type of thing, even if it's hands-free. So there might be something to do with that, just those types of things. So the reason we're doing this in advance of it is so we can look at it and just try to remember that this is going to come up, and that if there's things that you need to do, like sign important papers, do them before Mercury goes retrograde or after it goes direct. I mean, unless it's an emergency, you have to do it. Sometimes you have to do stuff, but just try your best to uh, try your best to work it out. Just try your best to plan things as best you can. But that's why we're looking at it. I mean, I suppose if there's Jupiterian stuff, but like learning, I don't think it's a bad time for learning or taking a class. But again, if you sign up for a class, for example, at this particular point in time, it's between like the 9th and the 11th with a few days on either side, then you're going to probably have something that's going to interfere with those plans. Even if it's not a bad or terrible thing, you just might not be able to complete it. So yeah, so that's the one retrograde pattern that I wanted to show you. And then the other one is here where Mercury goes direct and Saturn goes direct at the same time. So you have a Mercury stationary point and a Saturn stationary point. So thinking about just there's something that could happen here that could have results here. Saturn solidifies things. So something may come here. I'm circling the 9th and the 11th Mercury Jupiter retrograde, and then coming over here to the 28th, 29th direction. Saturn stationary points are difficult even when you don't have anything that is where it doesn't hit anything in your chart in particular. It's just that everybody is struggling a little bit, everybody's slowed down a little bit, everybody's delayed a little bit. We have to be very forgiving of timing, both with ourselves, with other people, but planning in advance for a Saturn direction or Saturn stationary point means that we need to tell ourselves that we need extra time to get ready for things. We need extra time to finish a project. We can't, I don't want to say you can't cancel that thought, but it's very difficult to do things fast, right? It's just hard. So, things are heavier, things take more time, things are delayed. So Saturn and Mercury, and so sometimes you get something like we we're saying about Mercury and Jupiter stationary point, where you say something off the top of your head that gets you into trouble. You might not find out about the trouble until it gets to this Mercury Saturn point. So then somebody will tell you why they're mad at you because of something you said 3 weeks before. That's why you want to be aware of both. Honestly, Mercury and Saturn, they're both in water signs, so they're both trining each other at this point. So I think that it's possible for us to get some benefit out of it, but it's only benefit if we can have a good attitude. I think that's the only way to get a benefit out of this. And to say, hey, I'm going to get Mercury and Saturn to work together. That's my affirmation, is that these planets are trying to each other. They're intense, but they're going to work well together. So the example I gave of writing a first draft over here, this is where you would work on it, all this in between time in these 3 weeks. And then you get over to here and now you can edit it. If you put the work in already, now you can say, okay, this is how the pieces come together. Or say there's a puzzle in your life, or you can use like a jigsaw puzzle if you want to think about it, or just a puzzle that's in a game, and your brain at the beginning over here, your brain becomes aware of the puzzle or the problem. You're problem solving, like our brains are always problem solving. Here's the beginning of the puzzle. Here, where you've become aware of it, and you say, well, this sounds like a fun puzzle to solve. And then you start working on it, your brain's working. And then you get to here, this 28th and 29th, and the solution appears. It doesn't mean it's an easy solution. It doesn't mean it's uh, even the most harmonious solution necessarily, but you go like, okay, this is how it all comes together. This is how the plan is going to work. This is how this is how we're going to have to I want to say limit our thinking. And I'm not saying that that's limiting your thinking is a bad thing. This is where you have here with Jupiter, you have a million possibilities. Well, what do you do with a million possibilities? You're trying to go off in a million different directions. But by the time you get to Saturn, things have, come down from the astral. You're on the Earth plane now. You go like, okay, I see I'm going to build a house out of bricks. The bricks are right in front of me now, and here's how they fit in and interlock with one another. I'm just trying to give you an example that you can put into your mind and say, okay, if things seem really flaky right around the 9th and 11th, they will be your problem will be right in front of you and totally clear. And the solution should be fairly clear too by the time you get to the 28th and 29th. It's just like with the Saturn station point, we probably won't like it. We'll have the solution. We just won't like the solution. So again, I think by saying this isn't to be negative. It's more like to say, so we can laugh about it. We have to laugh, and we have to be kind to ourselves as we go through these different aspects. And remember, these aren't necessarily personal to you. If you don't really have anything in this, 20, 25 degree range of either Pisces, this would be like Saturn would be conjuncting, squaring, or opposing the mutable signs, right? You'd probably want to look at that. But then um, you then at least as an astrologer or astrology student, we're looking a little bit beyond that because we go like, okay, well, things seem very heavy and stuck right now, but we know that in a few days, Mercury will start really be picking up the pace, and Saturn will slowly be plodding along behind it, and eventually everything will get moving. So if you find yourself stuck over here, then you just the most important thing that we learn in astrology, if we wait a little bit, the aspects will be different. There'll be something different. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was this good aspect, because we're going to have something good. At the new moon, the new moon on the 20th of November is at 28 Scorpio. So that's just the new moon, which is fine. But it's all going to be so lots going on here. This is Uranus at 29 Taurus, sextiling Neptune at 29 Pisces. So this is a transit, and it's a harmonious transit. It's one of the harmonious transits that we have. I don't have the chart in front of me to show you specifically, but but we have Uranus and Neptune have just backed up into these signs, right? Here, this is at 29, this is at 29. And we talked about this X number of weeks ago. We were talking about the 29th degree, the anorectic degree, and how it's a sort of like an unstable transitional degree. So you're having something in this sextile that is related both to Taurus and Gemini, because I want to say really Uranus is in Gemini this year, but it just backed up into Taurus, and it's just backed up and Neptune is just backed up into Pisces. So Neptune was in Aries, now it's backed up into Pisces. And it's in this, oh wait, our consciousness is looking at, wait, we'd already accepted Uranus and Gemini, we'd already accepted Neptune in Aries, and now we're going back, we're revisiting. Have you learned the lessons, as they say? Have you learned the lessons of these signs? But these are harmonious with one another. Uranus, which is our genius and our insight, and Neptune, which is our intuition and our artistic creativity and our love of music and all this. So there's something. So watch in particular if if it's something that's interesting to you, watch what music comes out, watch what the hit songs are, watch what people are attuning to in terms of music, or watch what music you're drawn to at this time. I think that can be a real helpful thing. Just so you know, because this is why we look at a list like this, because you can see that this sextile and the new moon are the same day. And this is 28 Scorpio, the new moon. So the sun and the moon are at 28 Scorpio, right? And then the Uranus is at 29 Taurus. So the new moon is opposed, right? Opposition. Opposition Uranus. So there's some energy. There's some unexpected changes of plan. But with the sextile, maybe they're good. Maybe there's some, invitations. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut that said in one of his books, an invitation to travel is like a dancing lesson from God. So, watch those. It doesn't mean you have to go, but intriguing invitations. And so that's sort of a fun thing to think about. But also that this new moon is also then, because this is Pisces and this is Scorpio, these two are trine. So there's some good aspects happening there. And this is what I really wanted to show you, the overview. We can talk about in the weeks to come, we can always revisit these aspects. But it's important to know them in advance, because if you're planning an event, if you're planning to sign a document, if you're planning things, then you want to know what's going on, especially with Mercury, but also with these other stationary points. So I think I'll stop there and we can talk about it, but I have some other things to share as well that I'll do more in the discussion time. So I hope, and that's sort of in the hopes of encouraging people that sometimes can't be here, just to know I'm really sorry, but there are things that we get to talk about in the discussion. Maybe I can share some notes with you in the email that I send out, but we can't always be we can't put everything on the recording. So I'm going to stop there.